The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
1420 Sports Bar Podcast. 4 beers of sports talk and a whole lot more. Join host Brent Radlinson as he bellies up to the bar and gets the conversation going that'll make you think you're sitting in your local watering. It's sports, beer, and shenanigans. So sit back, grab a few beers, and let's get into it. The 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, 4 beer sports talking a whole lot more on this 12th day of October 2024. Today's show, as always, is brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420SEAT at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase over there at SeatGeek. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to BellyUpSports.com for all their great articles and other podcasts, such as friend of the show, Aaron Riley from Brutally Honest Sports. Aaron, how are you doing, sir? Little traffic problems today getting back into the studio.
Oh man, Saturdays around here, just forget about it. But yeah, no, doing pretty well. It's really nice day out here today. I don't know about you guys north of the border, but
it's beautiful.
It feels like just at night it's starting to get chilly. It is starting to get chilly, but during the day today especially, can't complain.
Yeah, yesterday I went over to the stadium. There was a little crispness on the grass. It's close to get freezing overnight. It was about just above freezing last night, but it was quite nice throughout the day and then everything else. Aaron, let's get into it right off the hop. You had some pretty high hopes for both of your baseball clubs this postseason, the Baltimore Orioles and the Philadelphia Phillies, and both came up pretty short. I mean, if you're done, you're done. It doesn't much matter. Let's start with the Orioles. They got 2 more games than the Chicago White Sox. Really, when it comes down to it, like the playoffs are a thing, but it's 2 years in a row now that the Orioles have gotten beat out in the wild card round without so much of a whimper. They went out. What's going on there? And is that window not closing? But is there cause for concern in at Camden Yards?
Yeah, it's tough to say, right? When we get into the Phillies, it's a completely different story because of the finances. That's what I'll be curious to see with the new ownership in Baltimore. Are they willing to? I don't think they're going to sign I don't think they're going to re-sign like a Burns type of guy, but I think they'll spend some more money. From what I hear and what I read about, they're at least somewhat trying to be players in the free agent market, but. That's really I'm not going to make excuses for him, but I guess talking out of 2 sides of my mouth, I kind of am going to make some excuses because the pitching staff was just not. There was nobody hardly left. It was like Burns and Eflin, like the trade deadline acquisitions. Grayson Rodriguez was questionable. We don't know if we would have saw him. And the bull. They didn't really address their bullpen in the offseason, which I thought was a major concern. If you bring in Craig Kimbrell as your offseason acquisition, that's not exactly spectacular. So, yeah, I think it'll be.
They DFA'd him right before the playoffs started, didn't they? They said thanks, bye, see ya.
Yeah, and he wasn't even He wasn't even part of the team in the playoffs. But that was their quote unquote answer to Bautista being out this whole year. So I don't know. Like I said, it's going to take their ownership to kind of get a little bit of a stranglehold on trying to become a free agent. A team that makes moves in free agency. You can't rely completely on the farm. The Braves kind of did it back a couple of years ago, but it's very rare that you see Texas last year. They had plenty of trade deadline acquisitions. They signed Seager, they signed Semien, years ago. They spent money. So it's going to come down to, do they have the ownership to do it? And then, yeah, like you said, they played 2 more games than the White Sox. They played 2 more games than the Marlins. These awful teams this year. And you got to feel like the air went out of the balloon for them again. And I don't know, these young players will be there, but you lose Burns, that's an ace. He might end up as a Yankee. He might end up as a Dodger. You don't know. He's going to command a ton of money. So I'll be curious to see, but I don't quite know where they're going to go from here.
Do you like the format of the way the players are set up? I know it creates interest with the wild card. The wild card's been around since '95, I think it was, whatever it's been. But do you like the format, the way it's set up? Because right now you have 3 out of the 4 teams that are in the CS spend over $300 million on their payroll. So really, what's the point? Like all you get 2 more games, and yeah, you get like I said, you get a lot of interest at the end of near the end of September for wild card matchups. And yes, you did have that great matchup with the Mets and Atlanta on the extra last day of the season. But in general, is the wild card thing? Is it just a great big waste of time?
I'm not sure because I mean, obviously the Mets are still around, the Tigers are still around, and they're both they played through that wild card round. So I know I get what you're saying. I kind of look at the Mets as a fake $300 million team because like what Scherzer, I think Scherzer and Verlander are still on their payroll. Like their current
they're paying a pretty good chunk of that. I think still when they went to the Astros, I believe. Yeah,
right, that's
and
at least
Texas,
what I think too. Yeah, so I it's kind of strange. Like you look at their team, they don't have a bunch of There's Lindor's making some cash, Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz. I don't think really there's. Nimmo was making 20 million. I think not that that's chump change, but it's like
that's podcast money, really.
Hopefully, right? I don't know. I will say I prefer it over the 1-game wild card. I thought that was horrible because it's like
I agree.
Baseball is too complex. Like football, you can line it up and play 1 game, and like you can make adjustments. And if your defense isn't playing good, okay, we can change. Baseball, if your pitcher has a bad day, you're shelled. Like Garrett Cole goes out there, gives up 5 runs in the first inning. You're pretty like the chances of you winning are very slim to none. So at least the 3-game series makes it a little bit more of a level playing field. What do you think? Do they make it like a best of 5 wild card, or do you think they have it kind of down to a science now?
Well, I think I just thought of this one. Could you just have 1 wild card and your 3 division winners, and then the next first rounds of playoffs? That's it. Just have 1 wild card with a wild card. Because now you have all these teams are having 14 celebrations by the time they clinch a playoff spot, they clinch a wild card, they clinch the division, they clinch this, they clinch that, and then they're wearing their freaking goggles 15 times for the playoffs to even start. It gets blown so out of proportion that they kind of sort of make the playoffs. Yeah, so you kind of sort of you guaranteed yourself 2 more games. What would he fucking do? Like really, like you then you clinch this. Okay, great, right on. And I don't know. I think there has to be more of an emphasis on winning a lot more games early and getting guys your Orioles are a team that were fortunate the way that they started the season off because they weren't very good the second half of the season and they leaked themselves and backed themselves in the playoffs. I think there's got to be more of an emphasis on winning the division, not just kind of okay, we can set things up and because now the divisional matchups aren't the same. There's an unbalanced schedule or balanced, but I can't remember which one it is. Doesn't matter. But it's I think there's got to be more of an emphasis on winning the division, and then you have maybe 1 wild card spot, so you're not just saving your pitchers for the last week of the season to and then lining up your playoff pitching matchups. I think there's got to be a better way than having a bunch of games that don't mean nothing. Like I think there's, and then like we talked about just before we were on the show, we had just the way the playoffs are set up. Like the Yankees have played 4 games in 2 weeks. My interest isn't huge. Like I was watching, obviously, but my interest hasn't been huge because they played the first game last Saturday, had Sunday off, played Monday, had Tuesday off, played Wednesday, Thursday, and now they're not going to play again until Monday. Like it's like the playoffs should be just bang, 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 go, 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 and it's just because of this extra round, which is it's better than the single game, like you said, and I completely agree with you. There isn't a whole bunch of juice so far for Yankee fans. There just isn't.
Is it? I mean, I guess that would be it would be going the opposite way. Kind of like I thought about the NHL, way of doing the playoffs there, but then you play a best of 7 in the wild card. I mean, the Yankees would be off for 2 weeks,
yeah,
or like
exactly.
The Phillies would have been off for 2 weeks. The Dodgers would have been off for 2. Like that's a major. I want more base. Like I don't mind that they did this wild card round. It's just I don't know. I guess the only way to fix it is if like you can't play at a neutral site too. You got to have the travel between. If it's going to be best out of 5, you got to have 2 and let's just say the Philadelphia.
That's another week that the division winners aren't playing.
Right, and I like football. They've done that for a while now. The wild card, boom. The first seed gets a bye, then they play like it's the same setup. But I totally get what you're saying. I mean, the Yankees got that series out of the way quick, so you kind of look at it that way too. But it's yeah, I don't know. I don't
Well,
know
it worked
what's
out
the
because they got Cole pitched 2 out of the 4 games, even though he wasn't very good in game 1, right? So that helped a lot. But I don't know. Do you go to find a way to get a 4th division, have 2 and 2 and 2 and 2, and then that's it? I don't know.
maybe
There's got to be something
I
a
see,
way.
but I like the wild card, like because it just. I mean, the Mets wouldn't even be here right now if they didn't have the
Yeah,
wild card. So as much as I think the Phillies are a better team, it doesn't matter. I mean, when push comes to shove, they won the series. Like they played better in that series. It's just like how I like that they expanded it to make it more like there's more baseball, right?
there's more.
That's a
Yeah.
good thing. But I totally see where you're coming from, where it's hard to keep a ton of energy if you're the Yankees, where it's you played 4 games. It's like, well, you look forward to them playing every game that they do play, but it's not like they're okay. Here's a game here. Here's a game there. Here's a game that. It's just like kind of a tease. It's not. It's not the whole thing.
Let's get into the. I had Ryan Finkelstein from the Locked On Mets podcast on yesterday. It should be up wherever you get your podcast right away. But he was talking about the Mets, how like they just kind of they got a little bit of mojo going on right now, and they got everything going. And they had a really tough start to their season. They were 11 games under 500 at the end of May, and then all of a sudden they're the best team in baseball, and they look like they can't be stopped. And it's actually like it's like holy Christ, the Mets they got some. I mean, they're the Mets. They're going to tank somehow. It's the Mets, right? You just expect them to fall apart. But did the Phillies just run into a team that's just hot? Is that as simple as it is, or is that Phillies team? Are they flawed and kind of Jesus? Maybe this we're because
It's
their
so
window because Bryce Harper's window's closing. He's not getting any younger.
that yeah. I mean, this has kind of put
He's
the
still a hell of
limelight
a
on.
player.
What's that?
He's still a hell of a player, but eventually
Yeah,
you're not, right?
yeah, and believe me, I'm kind of a Bryce Harper critic to a point, but like he hit three. I think he hit like 330 in the playoff. Like he shows up for the playoffs, and not to take a shot at Judge, like, but Judge hasn't done much in the playoffs, so we
That's
can't
terrible.
like. I'm grateful that like if he's gonna show up, he's gonna show up in the playoffs. That's the type of player you want. Who cares if he hits 85 bombs in the regular season? Like, yeah, it helps you get there, sure, but when you need him, you need him. So.
Yeah, I tell
I
you what,
think
I could give a shit how many American League MVPs Aaron Judge wins. I don't care.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Win,
That's
win.
well. That's like the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. Like he wins
Yeah, same
every.
thing.
He's the MVP every year, but like, do they win shit? Like he's not
King
Mahomes.
of a third world country. Way to go, pal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's and I'm not like I said. I'm not trying to throw shade at like Judge is a hell of a player. It's just when you like the playoffs are like that's when you want your guys. I could care less if the guy's struggling to end the regular season. Boom, playoffs come on. That's when he shows up. To answer your question though, I think. Yes, the Phillies ran into a buzzsaw. I mean, the Mets in like the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning are just like I don't think there's a team better in late innings than the Mets, at least right now, with the teams left. But yeah, I mean, I if you could have told me that the Phillies are going to fall apart because of their bullpen, I would have told you that would be the last thing I thought would happen. The bat, where they're scoring 1 or 2 runs a game. Yeah, I that team is very like when they're hot, they're hot. They can put up 9, 10, 11 runs on teams, but when they're cold, this is what you see. And I think like this might be a hot take, but I think Trey Turner's contract is one of the worst contracts in baseball
I thought it
history.
was
I
an
mean,
overpay. He's a really
he
good player,
can't
but I
play.
thought that's an overpay.
I think he's too mentally just in his he's too in his head. He's not thinking about playing the game. The pressure of playing in Philadelphia is too much for some people, and I think he's he played in DC. I mean, yeah, they have fans, but it's not like you're gonna get killed in the media. And then he played for the Dodgers, who the Dodgers are always good, but like like you say, you've talked about it before. Dodgers have a fan base that's just kind of happy to be there. Like there's a lot going on in California to focus on. You're not like gonna kill players for not showing. Like Philadelphia, it's like you either show up or you're gonna get booed every single at bat. So yeah, I think that's part of it. I think yeah, the offense really went away. I mean, from like six, I think it was like the 4th or like from Bohm down, they didn't do anything. Castellanos and Harper are the only ones that did anything. Schwarber hit a 1 home run. I think it was like the game 2 or game 1. He hit that leadoff home run, but yeah, I mean, I think the team has flaws. The pitching staff, I still think the rotation's solid. I'd roll with Nola, Wheeler, and Ranger Suarez over most rotations in the league. But The batting order is way too streaky, and the Mets are a team that can just single you to death. So, yeah, I mean, I still am kind of shocked that it went down that way, but that's going to be one of the biggest storylines is are the Phillies going to like clear house, clear half the house or go out in free agency and try and spend even more money than they already are. Like I've been a proponent that Rob Thompson's too much of a vanilla guy. He's laid back. He doesn't I don't think he motivates anybody. I don't think he's a guy that's blessed with a good team. Like if he had like a Kansas City,
well, there's a
Royals
reason
team,
why he never advanced anywhere with the Yankees. He was a bench coach forever.
right?
Right, he just was like it's that like you look at the Reds. They went and got a gamer like Terry Francona out of nowhere, brought him out of retirement. Yeah. Francona jumping in with the Phillies would probably be a perfect fit.
Yeah, I think exactly. No, I'm a Francona fan all the way back to like I think he's a great manager. But I think like if you put Rob Thompson on like a Kansas City Royals level team, they might miss the play. Like he doesn't make a good team great or a bad team good. He just to me, he's along for the ride. That's about all he does. He doesn't change the outcome all that much. He's not terrible. I don't think with like pitching decisions, like, oh, we'll pull this guy now. I don't. There's a lot of times I don't disagree with him there, but as far as like a leadership standpoint, players want to play for that guy. I think they think that guy's probably a pushover. Honestly, that's what it feels like.
Fan of the Van area, Jimmy Plotner out of a semi-retirement. He had a bit of a stomach virus. I don't give a fuck. He says it's a billion home runs. We remember what he doesn't show up in the playoffs. Same with any other superstar player on any team. Jim, fan of the Van. That's exactly like I was just saying there. It doesn't matter to me if Judge or whoever, if it's Harper or this, that, and anything else. Winning matters. Like when you go to Cooperstown, it doesn't say you were the MVP here. It says X amount of World Series champion first. He played here, this many World Series champion, and then the stats are at the bottom of your career stats. Winning matters. I don't care who you are, what you got going on. Winning is the only thing that matters. You look at those great Yankee teams in the late '90s. You look at other teams that happened. The to back-to-back Toronto Blue Jays teams that won World Series. They say back-to-back World Series champion. That's what matters to fans. That's what matters to the media. All that other stuff is just window dressing. It really is. It doesn't matter. And you could have all these things and everything, but you show up in the playoffs and win something, that matters a ton. Like if the Red Sox would have never won in 2004, David Ortiz is not on TV today. He's not. Right? Like you have to win. He's got personality to burn, but eventually you have to win.
Yeah, I mean, now they have. Oh my goodness, I don't know if you caught much of that Mets Phillies series, but I like AJ Brzezinski. He couldn't hate the Phillies more. Like it's just like I don't get it. I whatever. There's people like I'm not a Yankees guy, but if I was announcing the Yankees, I'd be like, wow, look at Soto and look at like he's just like Mets, like down your throat. But they had Wainwright on that cast. Who Wainwright, I'm a world champion. He's going to be a Hall of Famer if you already
got one with the White Sox in whatever year that was, 2000.
Oh yeah, but Brzezinski, yeah, but like, I mean, you have to have that. Like, if you're gonna have, I totally forgot Brzezinski got one. Like, I forgot because the White Sox are so bad that you can't even picture them being good. It's like, but yeah, no, I mean, look at like Wainwright. If Wainwright was just I mean, you got Tom Brady in the NFL in the booth. They incorporated Romo, but you're gonna have those guys that are champion. And like even that Red Sox, if they came back from that 3-0 against the Yankees in the ALCS, but they go on to lose the World Series, they're not going to be forever. Like they'll be remembered, sure, but it'll be a lot less. Like,
if you didn't win, you didn't win. You got to win. And that's anything. Yeah, talk about that White Sox team for half a second. Like they lost 122. That's tough. Like to lose 122 games, that is tough to do. And then the owner comes out and says, we're going to be cutting payroll again this year. Like how these owners get away with this is unreal to me because they get so much money in revenue sharing and MLB.com and the app and everything else. And they say, yeah, you know what? Losing 122, that's not nearly enough. Let's see if we can't beat that one. Let's see if we can't beat this one. Like, how the hell is this allowed? And then the mess of we haven't talked about this, the mess of the Oakland A's organization and how Major League Baseball allowed that to happen. Like, it's just the whole thing. on the bottom end of baseball. Baseball, I was going to say this for the next segment, but baseball needs a major change because the haves and have-nots it's gross now. It's actually beyond gross.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's you took the thoughts out of my the the Browns have been, yeah. I mean, they really are. It's
One thing
like
you can always count on: Christmas coming December 25th, and Jim, the fan of the van, saying how bad the Browns are no matter what.
I mean, kick them while they're down, and they're
Always,
down.
and they're
So.
down. The Browns are down. Deshaun's not. They're probably going to. I think they have to bench him. I don't think they have any choice but to bench Deshaun Watson. I really don't think they have a choice.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot of money, but who cares?
He gave up on that.
With you. We'll lose without you. Who cares?
Right. Yeah. I mean, they had a 4th down last week, and I didn't watch the game, but I saw a clip, and he like gave up. He's like, you know what? I'm not even going for it. Like that to me is, you should be benched the rest of the year for something like that. Yeah. I mean, he should be arrested for highway robbery for the amount of money that he stole from that franchise. But yeah, I mean, the A's thing really, because I mean, watching Moneyball, and I am gonna kind of be one of those guys here. Injuries of Raj. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, look
Back
at
it up,
that.
Binge Podcast. We got to get you on the show and talk some baseball face to face. I mean, just reading all your posts here. An Orioles fan here. Starting pitcher injured to Bradish, Wells, Means, and G-Rod missing the back end of the season. 48% of the runs on the long ball. Need more non-yard production. Kimbrel not good. Exactly. We were talking about that exact same thing earlier on. Kimbrel and his dangly arm, and his stupid stance, his stupid hair, and his stupid man bun, and all his stupidness. He needs to just go away. I can't stand Kimbrel. I just can't stand him.
I mean,
back to the A's. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I am gonna I'm trying to stay more loyal to from the Phillies from now on, Brent, because I do hate myself for having two teams. I'm gonna follow the Orioles from a distance, though. You know what I mean? I'm still gonna, because I think you still have a little bit of Dodgers love in your back.
Oh yeah, I do.
A little bit.
I do.
So similar, but anyways, what I think baseball should do is with the Oakland A's thing. I saw your podcast. I forget the gentleman's name that came on, but that was a great show. I wanted to be there for that. I couldn't, but the A's, that, like, watching Moneyball and stuff like that, I'm not going to say I have a rooting interest, but I've always, from a very far away, I want them to do well, because it like that story, like their ownership screwing them. Like I kind of feel for these teams that the ownership just screws them. And the White Sox are the same thing. Like, baseball should have learned, like, what's wrong with trying to, like, force ownership to sell the team, fix the stadium, have an owner that cares.
The thing is, when you own a franchise, it's no different than owning a fucking McDonald's. It's a franchise. You own you own all the rights to it. The Major League Baseball and its other owners and their other governors, they decide what happens. So it's all the owners who are just as guilty as management, as the commissioner is, of letting that happen. Because every other owner said, you know what? Let's say he can leave, because if we say he can't leave, then when things go south for us 3-4 years from now, and we want to leave, we have to have the right to do so. All they are is as a franchise owner, and Major League Baseball and the other owners are just as much to blame for the Oakland A's. See you later. It's gross.
No, you couldn't be more right on that, because if you remember, the Orioles, like a year or two ago, there was rumors they weren't going to sign the lease at Camden Yards, and they were going to go to South Carolina, North Carolina, something like that. So see, that presented itself, where I'm sure the owners of the Orioles at the time, the Angelos family, they were probably thinking, you know what, we can't say anything about the Oakland A's leaving, because if we ever want to leave out of Baltimore, like, they were probably in support of that. Oh, look, a team going to Vegas. Like, why not force ownership to sell the team in Oakland, get an ownership that cares, and then expand and put a new team in Vegas? Because all the Oakland A's, if I was a diehard Oakland A's, nobody else matters team, they're my team, and they go to Vegas, I'd probably root against them, because they left town. They left us high and dry. It wasn't the fans' fault. I don't care that only 2,000 people showed up. It's because of the ownership that fans didn't show up. It's not the other way around. It's not fans didn't show up and then ownership decided to do this. No, ownership didn't care for the longest time. And then the MLB doesn't step in and say, look at the White Sox. This is a black cloud on our – I mean, you don't have that in the NFL. Even the bad NFL teams, the Cleveland Browns, let's just say, they have crowds that, yes, it's a lot less games and stuff like that, but you don't see a team absolutely not trying. Like, they thought Deshaun Watson would be good. They brought him in. The White Sox are not trying to win. And now they're saying we're going to spend even less money and MLB is like, sure, that's fine. Like we'll have our teams that are just anemic. Like these teams are AAA, glorified AAA team. Like it's there's no way baseball should allow it to get to this point. And they just saw an example of that. Now the A's are going to play in a AAA stadium. Like
Maybe.
and what?
Like the whole
Why?
thing's not even settled yet. Like they're going to go to Sacramento maybe, but then they said they have the option to go play back in Oakland or somewhere because they want to have a chance to sell more playoff tickets because their team's actually improving. And then the thing in Vegas is a mess because now the Tropicana site, they're like, well, we don't have any money to pay for this, and now they're talking about going up by the Rio because Vegas said, no, man, this isn't how we do things here in Vegas. You have money, you pay for it. You want to come here, you're paying for it. We aren't calling you, you're calling us.
And what it's going to cost the A's more to do all that than if they would sort of fixed the Oakland. Like I get Oakland is crumbling financially as a city, but to say that owner has no money, like I don't know. That situation is just pure sad to me. And like watching all those clips, like that stadium was like electric that last game and the last couple games. And like there's a ton of history. They have 5 World Series championships. It's not like this team has never been successful. You're just throwing it away. You're just, you know what, forget. And the fact that, this is what had to happen. No, it didn't. I don't believe that. I think you could have saved it years ago if you didn't let it get to this point.
Jim Plotner, I'm more of a Selena and Barnes guy because 1-800-888-8888. I can remember that number there, Jim. So I'm more of a Selena and Barnes than a Jacoby and Jacoby Law. It's crazy the way that all turned out, and there's no reason why the Oakland A's couldn't have found a way, and the mayor and the state and the city and everybody and the owners didn't want to stay. The owners didn't want to stay. It's crazy. They've been around for so long. Like you said, the World Series championships, even the ones, they were around. They did some great playoff series. They didn't advance with some teams that didn't have a lot of money. And the way the ownership just gave up on it, and you expect people to show up. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. When people don't pay money to see their team lose. They won't. They might stay home to watch the game, but they're not going to go to watch the team lose. And it's sad to see that ownership just gave up on it. You still had, and it goes deeper because now you're not getting guys signing free agent contracts to go there because who's going? I mean, the place was a dump. It was dilapidated and everything else, but it's just crazy the way that all turned out. It's awful that it turned out. My brother just tuned in for the first time. I think it's the first time he's ever listened to or watched his show. Why not stay in Oakland and get the new stadium down in Vegas? I'm an A's guy. I don't know if I can cheer for the Vegas A's. Go Tigers. I totally agree. You're going, like you said earlier, Aaron, I don't know how we ended up with this stupid A's talk 2 weeks later, but it's good because it's they had to find a way to get it done. They really did. Aaron, what's up, man? Go ahead. You read this one, Aaron.
I'm not gonna that couldn't tell you what that's from. That's some jackass that has nothing better to do, I guess.
Okay, that's different. I'm not sure what that was all about. That's why
I promise you that I don't roll that way, man. But
whatever. We'll get that one off there, wherever that person is. Let's get back to this year's baseball playoffs. So the Mets, I think, to me, like the Dodgers are through, the Mets are through, the Yankees are through, and I think, and now you have the Guardians playing the Tigers, and both teams are. The Tigers haven't won since '84, and it's been 100 and whatever years since the Cleveland's won Indians/Guardians. Is this series just a foregone conclusion? They're going to come and get their teeth kicked in by the Yankees?
I hate to say it. It feels like it. It feels like it, though. I mean, Cleveland has just not the bats to keep up with it, I don't think. Detroit, I don't know. I mean, they're kind of like the Mets of the AL, I guess, to a certain degree. They're the Cinderella team, but I don't know. I mean, do either one of those teams have enough to make it like a 7-game series with New York? I mean, they could, right? That's why they play the game. But it seems like to me they would be overmatched. And like, especially if Judge comes around because Stanton is Stanton in the playoffs is different. And then you have Soto, who is Soto. So that alone is scary. And I just don't know if they have enough firepower to keep up, which, I mean, that's what I said to you. Like, the Yankees have kind of not a clear path, but a clearer path than, previous years.
Yeah, it's but the thing is, you still got to play the games, and anything can happen. And all of a sudden, you run into a buzzsaw, and you go, "Oh, this didn't go the way it was, the way it was supposed to." And the Yankees, I mean, they haven't really done it. Well, haven't done anything since 2009. Haven't been in a World Series since then. Boo hoo on my end of things, I guess. But it just seems like it's a foregone conclusion. It's not a bunch of juice. Then they should win, and if they don't, then it's just a disappointment, and it's just over, right? But the National League playoffs have been just fantastic, and the way that the Phillies lost out to the Mets and the Dodgers and the Padres went to the 5-game series. I wish that one could have been a 7 because that was a knockout. But the way they like to go 23 or 24 innings scoreless to end the playoffs like the Padres did. That's astonishing. That's tough to do, to not score, to not find a way to score a run. And is that analytics kind of taking over? Like the big swing's going to do it. The big swing's going to do it. But you know what happens if you don't get a big swing? Zeros across the board. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean that's the baseball we live in, right? Launch angle and hit the 3-run home run, all that. I mean, I was a proponent of, because that's why I always kind of preferred watching American League ball to National League when they had the designated hitter compared to the pitcher. I hated that. I thought that was so stupid.
An automatic out or sack bunt, maybe
a sack bunt. Yeah, you kind of, and then every once in a while a pitcher will hit a home run and they'll say, "Oh, see, that's why we shouldn't get rid of it." Okay,
Bartolo Colon would tie into one somehow. Yeah,
yeah. If you look across the league, they're hitting .46, but we'll make an argument that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, baseball has changed like in that respect. Like you don't see teams playing small ball. Like there's not even a team I can, like even the Royals with Bobby Witt who can steal bags and hit doubles and all that. And there were some guys on the Orioles that have some, like Cedric Mullins, and there's guys out there that still steal bases, but you're not seeing a guy bunt one down the line, even when they're playing a hardcore shift where there's nobody on the third base line. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a shame in my opinion. Like everybody's just trying to load a lineup that can. I mean, you saw the Phillies. The Phillies are built for power and home runs, and they went very cold in the playoffs. The Mets, I would say, are more built to just kind of run the bases well. Hit guys, keep the lineup moving with singles, doubles, etc. But outside of Lindor and Alonso, they don't really have guys that are just roping home runs like that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, you see it with the Yankees. They're kind of built to hit the home
all or
run.
nothing.
Like, yeah.
The Lindor home grand slam in the 8th the other night. That was man, that was some drama there. The thing I liked about Lindor doing that, there was no big fist pump, bat flip. And I'm not against all that stuff. I'm not old man. I was a little bit for a while. I was old man. Don't do that. Play the game the right way. Just put your head down and run. Man, if I hit a home run in that situation, grand slam, I'm like swinging my dick around the base if I'm doing that. Like, so, but the one thing about Lindor that I really liked about that is he didn't, and he's kind of a flashy guy. But it was okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, perfect. I did something really great, but we still got some work to do. That's one thing about that Lindor home run that I found really, really astonishing, actually, because everybody when they do anything like that, bloody Jazz Chisholm Jr. hit a home run when it was 4-1 to make it 4-2. Way to go, hero! And he's doing the slide around home plate, the electric shuffle, and everything else. Like, Jesus, man, know your spot. Like, know your spot. Like if you're down, you ain't winning. I know it's only 2 swings of the bat away at that point, but if you hit a home run to make it 4-2 in the bottom of 9, and you're fucking doing that, fuck off.
Do you think it's a because like Chisholm coming into that team, he knows he's not going to be like he's a veteran, but he's not like
he's not the guy.
He's not the guy,
he's
right?
6th or 7th on the cool list.
Exactly. Like, yeah, like he's a nice player. He can do a lot. He was a good acquisition for you guys for sure. Yeah. But it's like Lindor, the Mets are Lindor's team. So if you see Lindor pimping a home run, it's like, okay, we can all do that. Like he is the Mets. Like the Mets go as Lindor goes. As much as people want to say, it's Alonso's team, from everything you hear, Lindor is like the vocal leader in the locker room. So yeah, I mean, as much as I don't,
$40 million a year, whatever they're getting. Jesus.
Yeah, and I think you're finally getting what he's worth. Like maybe what he's like before this year. I don't think he was worth it. This year, I mean, you can make a case, and obviously coming up in the postseason, like I said, is the biggest thing. So, yeah, I mean, credit to them. I tip my cap to a guy that doesn't do that. Like as much as, like you said, I'm not old guy, get off your lawn, but I'm the type of guy, just go about your bit, like win the game, then do that stuff. Like don't, because even if he hits that grand slam there and he's going crazy, and then the Phillies come back, that kind of looks. I mean, yeah, you had a big moment, and it would be hard for yourself and I. Like I'd probably lose my mind. Like I'd probably throw my helmet. But it's like, as a guy that's got to keep the team even keel. Like, okay, we're not done yet. Like we got the Phillies have a couple more at bats. Like let's see what happens. But yeah, that's a huge. I mean, a grand slam. That was like best case scenario for them right there.
Well, and you think about like just that series alone, game 2, I think it was back and forth and back and forth,
Great
and the
game.
home runs and the 8th, just a great game all around. And yeah, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it, and that's what happened a lot of times. They were a little premature ejaculation, I think, with some of those celebrations that they thought they won the game in the 5th, and they thought they won the game in the 7th, and then how it all turned out, because that Harper home run to get things going for them, and then Castellanos hit one right after that. It was like, holy Christ, they're going to pull this thing off, and the Mets came back, and it was just a great game all around. But yeah, that's the thing about baseball. Don't celebrate a little too early, because until that last out's recorded, especially in playoff baseball, anything can happen. Anything. And until that final out's recorded, man, oh man, you better keep your yap shut, in my opinion. Get excited, but don't be pointing at the other team and saying, yeah, I'm the man, because you'll get it thrown down your throat pretty quick.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, it's made baseball more fun to a certain degree, but I am an old school. I mean, I don't think, you should never celebrate, but it's like you'll see a guy, be 8-1 and he'll like throw his bat. Like it's just like, okay, why? Like, I don't.
Yeah. Way to go. Now you're hitting 214 with 9 home runs. You're getting DFA'd next week, you loser. One of those things. Out of the 3 teams that are in so far, you got the Mets, who haven't won since 86. They went to the World Series in 2015. And then they obviously, within the 2000, they lost, got swept by the Yankees. Not swept, I think it might have went 5 games with the Yankees. It was never going to be close. They're the Mets, right? It was one of those things. And you have the Dodgers. They won that one in 2020, the COVID year. So it's kind of a 3-quarter World Series, but they won in 88. The Yankees, they're supposed to be there year in, year out. And then the roar of 84, like I said last time, the Tigers won. So out of the Guardians haven't won this century, this century is kind of young in comparison. Even they haven't even won the 1900s. They didn't win, I don't think. So they've been out a long time. Out of the 5 teams that are left as we're doing this podcast right now, which team do you think has the most pressure on them to pull one off and maybe win something?
I mean, it's got to be either Yankees or Dodgers, I think, because of like the payroll they carry. I mean, I know the Mets, like, to me, that Mets payroll is like fake, though. It doesn't actually
They got the Dodgers payroll at 230, but they forget to add that $70 million that Ohtani's making, because he's got deferred money on the back end, so he's only making $1.5 million podcast money, right? One of those things.
Right, yeah, for some. Yeah, I mean, I almost think it's the Yanks, only because the Yankees are like, quote unquote, the gold standard, right? They're the chase for 28. It's like it's been a while in their standards. Like 09 for them is like a century. So I mean, you got to think it's probably the Yankees, followed by a close second of the Dodgers, because the Dodgers, I mean, have spent more money than the Yankees in recent times, and they have like you said, they have the COVID chip, which, I mean, to me, that's kind of an asterisk beside it, but whatever. I mean, somebody's got to win it, so they did. But I mean, the Tigers are playing with house money, and I even think the Mets are playing with, like, even though we can argue that the payroll is kind of up there. No one expected the Mets to to get
especially
through Milwaukee.
After their start, yeah.
Yeah, even like what was it, 1 out in the 9th inning versus Milwaukee? Everybody thought the Mets were dead. So the Mets are, to me, the even more of a Cinderella, just because of the way they're winning. The Tigers are kind of just like holding on for dear life. I think the Mets are proving they deserve to be there.
If I was a betting man, which I thank God I'm not, because I'd be really broke, but I would put money on the Mets, just because the way they're rolling, the way they're winning ball games. It's just, they seem to be on that magical heater, and there's going to be if DVDs are even a thing anymore, the championship DVD will be on sale with the day that the game's over. It just seems that they're on a bit of a heater that might not be able to be stopped. It's pretty remarkable. It's been a great playoff. Like it's we've talked about it a lot, like how the playoffs are just baseball playoffs are just different. Like until that final out's recorded, like when the Phillies were playing, were you swearing a little bit, Aaron?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't when they hit the grand slam. I really didn't. Because it felt like 1920.
No, they won in 1920 and 1948. Back when I
That's
was just
so.
a young fledgling baseball fan. I'm not done. I thought it was
Yeah,
longer
I
than
mean,
that.
that's
Thanks to Troy. Say hi, Troy. How you doing? I haven't tell you. I thought it was a lot longer than that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that series was really tough. It was it's more so it's when you're knocking on the door every year. I mean, you know how it is with when
Yeah.
the Yankees were dropping series to the Astros. It just feels like okay, the Phillies got to the World Series, then they lose in the NLCS last year. Now they lose in the divisional. It's like okay, at some point you're just like if not now, when? Like and there's fans out there that'll say, well, as long as you get in the playoffs, you give yourself a chance every year. But that sucks. I mean, that's like going to the dance and you have no girl to dance with. It's like I'm there, sure, I'm there, but it's like, am I contributing? Like, am I actually partaking in it? Not really. That's you're not partaking in a World Series if you don't win one. You might be there, but what's the good of that?
And that's what when we first started talking this afternoon is that the Orioles were really in the playoffs. You got two more games. I mean, they were both home games, but you got two games. Like, all right on. So I had my champagne celebration a week and a half ago with my goggles on, and then I hate that. Quit being pussies. If you're going to celebrate. Enough with the goggles. Like if it burns your eyes, you aren't a man. Be a man. Be a man's man.
I know the Royals got a tough one, obviously, with the Yankees there, but I guess you can look at them as because the Orioles were leading the division for a while. I don't know if the Royals were ever winning that division and stuff like that, but you got to think you go into the playoffs and for lack of a better term, you bust your load so fast that it's like you're done. It's like that's almost more deflating than making it to me. Like you're because you especially get steamrolled. I mean, the Orioles just couldn't hit, but the Royal, I don't know. If you're a Royals fan, did you ever actually think you were yeah, there's those fake optimism and anything can happen, sure, but when you don't actually feel
I don't think it's fake optimism, Aaron. I think it's stupidity. I think you're just flat out stupid if you think that they're going to win. And the Yankees barely snuck by that one. Like they didn't play very good in game one. They got a win, but the Royals just they're okay. They're okay, and yeah, the Yankees escaped one. But you play that series 99 times, the Yankees or 100 times, the Yankees win 98. Really?
Yeah, it reminds me of the Twins in the last 3-4 years. Like the Twins are in the playoffs every year. They win that division almost every year. They don't do anything. They're not actually real content. You can say they're a contender because of where they sit, and they're in the playoffs. But does anybody think they're actually going to get through? If you do, like you said, it's probably stupidity.
Yeah, there's being a fan of your team, but Jesus, man, it's over. It's over. Like Christ, it's just ridiculous. No, we talked about it. Baseball needs to be fixed a little bit. Is it time? And I'm against salary caps because every owner has the same opportunity to spend money if they want. These guys are all rich beyond belief. They're all billionaires, and they could find a way to do it. Is it time? Because now, like I said, we have 3 out of the 4 teams that are in are the top 3 in payroll pretty much, but the Dodgers pretend they're not, like I said, with the Ohtani deferred money. But is it time that there has to be some kind of a salary cap, or more importantly, does there have to be a higher floor that owners have to pay? Like that owners have to pay more than $30 million, which is a pitcher.
Yeah, it's Garrett Cole, right? The Marlins payroll is Garrett Cole. That's crazy. But yeah, I think I've been calling for that for years. That I love how the NHL does things with the floor and the ceiling and the floor with their cap system. Yeah. You have to have something because the Oakland A's, look at that travesty that they let happen, and then the White Sox. The White Sox are the next ones to be okay, we're leaving. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw the White Sox.
There's rumors they're going to Nashville.
Yeah, look, you've completely killed a fan base. when that team was, Mark Burley, Brzezinski, you go down the Paul Konerko, like they had guys back in the day. And it's a long cry from like contending. What was it? Ozzie Guillen managing that team, but it's I mean, at least make an effort, right? Like if you're forced to spend some money, at least maybe the riches get spread out a little bit. Because like Corbin Burns is a free agent, one of the best pitchers in baseball for my money, and it's like, is he going to the White? Like there's 0% chance he's going to the White Sox. Where in the NFL, a quarterback becomes a free agent. Oh, that team needs a quarterback. That team, like nobody's ever technically ruled out unless they've put themselves in a salary situation or a salary cap situation where like the White Sox, the Royal, like there's teams like we could probably, like you always say, there's probably 3 or 4 teams we could say they have a chance at him. Everybody else doesn't. No one else does.
Like we talked about this probably a year ago today. We're probably having the same conversation. You could go down the major league the list of teams. You could pick out 15 right now. This season's not even over, that aren't making the playoffs, let alone aren't winning a World Series next year. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. Like it's not hard to do. They aren't. They're not. Pittsburgh's not. Washington Nationals, they aren't. The Chicago White Sox, the Florida Marlins. The Seattle Mariners, because they never do.
They never do, exactly.
The Colorado Rockies. The Angels aren't. Like Mike Trout, like where did he go? He just gone, eh? Like that's okay. If Mike Trout wants to improve his public image, which I don't think he gives a shit what I like, I know he doesn't give a shit what I think, but the general public is starting to lean away from Mike Trout a little bit, in my opinion. If he wanted to become relevant, and I don't think he does, and that's why I don't think the guy actually likes baseball. I think he's really good at it, but doesn't like it very much, because that's why these injuries come up year after year. He'd be on TV right now. He'd be a color guy. He'd be sitting beside Jeter and Ortiz and A-Rod and doing something like that to improve his public image a little bit. Because Trout's getting into that dangerous Mr. Irrelevant thing. Or not Judge, sorry, the Trout. He's getting into that really dangerous Mr. Irrelevant in baseball land thing. Because before you know it, you're going to forget about him, because he hasn't played for a couple of years, really, a few games here and there. His team always stinks. He probably could ask for a trade tomorrow, and the owner would be, thanks, I'm not going to pay you anymore. But he just likes being down there, not doing anything. Is Mike Trout, and this is an easy one, is Mike Trout heading into like really, really irrelevant land? Because right now, if he was retired tomorrow, if you say, I'm good, I got 200 sheets in the bank or whatever, probably more. Is he a Hall of Famer? Probably not.
I think he might be it's unfortunate. Like
he's a Hauler, really good, but hasn't done fuck all.
Yeah, I think his stats are too good to not put him in the Hall of Fame. But it's like we talk about Judge passing Roger Maris, right? Wasn't it Roger Maris? I think I don't. I should know that, but
it was Maris. But didn't catch Bonds, because Bonds hit 198 that year or whatever it was.
Right, and as good as Judge is, we don't even talk about that anymore. Really, people aren't bringing that up constantly. Like you watch the Yankees, they talk about how good they're, but like that's how quickly things are kind of forgotten.
He hit 58 this year, and nobody cared.
Yeah, no one, and like if
he could have broke his own record with a hot weekend, and nobody cared.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
What have you done for me lately? Like really lately?
Baseball, especially like football, is just pumped. Like the NFL is just pumped down everybody's throat to the point where it's like you have to know this guy threw 6 touchdowns. It's like it's just whatever. But like
who is that? Ayuk? Brandon Ayuk, is that his name? Ayuk?
Yeah.
There was talk about him getting traded, and you couldn't not hear about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like who cares?
It's like the baseball regular season, it's so forgotten. Like and as good as Ken Griffey Jr. is, nobody even talks about him. Like he didn't win anything. So it's like the guys you remember, Jeter, right? He has World Series. Yes, he played for the Yankees. That's an upper hand, but he played. He got World Series. Like I'm trying to think of a guy on the Yankees that didn't get one that's good. Like I don't know.
Mattingly.
Yeah, like these guys are like baseball players are forgotten because they're not. Baseball doesn't market their guy. Like we talk about that all the time. They don't market the only guys that the only guy you'll ever hear about in baseball, if you don't watch baseball, is probably Ohtani and Judge. If you're not a baseball fan, like other than that, like who knows Anthony Volpe outside of baseball? Like no one knows that guy. And
starting shortstop for the New York Yankees. Who?
Right. And that's the thing about Trout. Like, no one's like, if you're an outsider, you probably think Trout retired because you don't hear it like, oh, where's Trout been? Like,
Well,
it's just
when he is playing, which is rare, he doesn't start playing till you're sound asleep, 10 o'clock at night.
that's another problem. Yeah, I
Right?
mean, you got to have your guys that like Bonds was, a West Coast guy after leaving Pittsburgh and things like that. But I mean, Trout, that's the thing that I don't like about Trout either. Is I'm a Philly guy. You see him at the Eagles games. Are you a Philly guy though? Because you don't want. It sounds like you don't want to play for the Phillies because you probably couldn't handle it. It'd be another. Excuse me. It'd be another Trey Turner.
I've been not. I'm not pro Trout. I don't want to go as far as saying I'm anti Trout, but I'm not pro Trout. Like, if he wanted to, he could walk into that office and say, "Trade me right fucking now." Do the Dane Lemieux from Slapshot. Trade me right fucking now.
What's the worst that could happen? You're never going to win out there.
Never. And never's a long time. I guarantee you they're never going to win.
I mean, maybe you go to the Phillies or another comparable team, whoever it might. The Mets. I mean, the Mets would take on his contract, but and you never win one, but you're in October, at least a couple. Like, you got to think those teams will probably be close to October. The Angels aren't even sniffing. Like, by July, the
Angels season is done for 2025 on October 12th, 2024.
Yep. What's he doing?
If Trout would find a way to go home to Philadelphia, to his hometown-ish area, he wins a World Series. They put a statue out in front of Citizens Bank Ballpark of him.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. He's and the fact that like he's a quote unquote like you grew up in New Jersey, not far away. They're gonna embrace those guys more. So like I said, he always claims to be I'm such a Philly sports guy. Okay, why didn't you try and you didn't even make an effort to come here? It's like you don't want to face. You want to be that guy that's he's that guy at the party wearing the jersey, and then you ask him, "Oh, who's on the team?" I don't really know. They're pretty good, right?
Still got the tag on it, for Christ's sakes, when he goes to this fucking party. Jesus Christ. No, it's too bad because he is a talent, obviously, but you wonder how much of a talent he would be if he played somewhere else. Like, if there was any kind of, you just wonder what he could do. Like, it's tough to say. I mean, it's all podcast banter, and who knows? It's odd that he hasn't.
Too, like, what if you insert, like, let's say he goes to the Yankees, right? Now you have lineup protection because you have Soto. Let's say they have Soto, Judge, and Mike Trout. Like, out there in the Angels, he has no protection. So to his credit, he hits amazing with like people pitching around him, basically. And like, I give him all the credit in the world. Like, he's the best stat machine guy you can probably find, from like a 5-tool standpoint, stealing bases, all that. But it's like, if you were in a lineup that's just flooded with superstar, the guy might hit 400. Like, you don't know. I mean, he might, but then he might crumble under the enormous media pressure that he would have.
You just like you wonder, because you got more money than you'll ever spend. Hopefully, I mean, it has gone sideways for an athlete now and then, where they made 200 sheets. No shit, what happened here? And then you got to, like, what's your legacy? Like that, and like, what's your legacy when it's all said and done? Did you get into Cooperstown? Yeah, okay, check it off the box. But did you win? Because once you win, they can't take that away from you. Right, because even though Pete Rose, I mean, we want to talk about that, we can, but even if Pete Rose didn't get in the Hall of Fame, that's people have they disagree on that whole situation. But when you win something, you have a band of brothers that you won with, and they're you guys are blood forever, like, because it's hard winning. And you have a group of guys that no one can take that away from you. Your name's on the trophy, and unless you're the Black Sox, that's a one-off. But it's when you win, that's yours. Like, that's something you'll remember forever. Like, no, like, even when you win your stupid little league tournament when you're 12 years old, you remember your teammates that you played with and on, and like, you remember, right? You got a hit, and you just remember those things. And Trout's got to do something, because he's played in 2 playoff games, 2 or 3. Like, dude, what are you doing?
I just don't, because if I remember correctly, I think he put a no trade clause in his contract. So it's like, you really trusted it's either you don't want to face the music of going, like, you're so afraid of change that you'd rather be. I mean, if you're a competitive player, which I like to think he is, you got to be mentally miserable out there. I mean, there's no way you're loving going to the park every day knowing, well, we're just playing the regular season again. Like
Going to be 78 and 84.
Yeah, what's the fun?
Or
Where's
worse.
the fun? Like, baseball's fun, sure, but it's like you're watching the same episode on repeat with that team. There's nothing changing.
You bring up the no trade clause. I'd like to know how that became a thing in professional sports. Like, it just. So let me get this straight. I'm gonna, like, if I'm the owner, if a agent and a player sat down in front of me and said, "Okay, let me get this straight. I'm paying you this much money, and if you suck, I have to stick with you." Yep, that doesn't sound like a very good idea to me. Like, I get it. I get it. The players have leverage, and they should, because it's just the way the collective bargaining agreement is. But if you stink, an owner shouldn't be obligated, because that's the only thing in maybe the odd union here and there. But even a union, the grievances that they could have, like if a player's not very good, an owner, because at the end of the day, you're just an employee, right? And if you're not pulling your weight and you're making 20 sheets a year, an owner should say, "Hey, man, like, do you want to get out of here?" Like, at least NFL, most, like, there are some that are guaranteed contracts with a caveat, and they can pay it over time. But eventually, like I like to know how this no trade clause thing came about. Like, it's odd to me.
And yeah, you got to think that, like, the only way that makes sense is if you, because I guess Trout still brings people. Like, if the Angels didn't have Trout, is the attendance even, like, they have to look at it from only a financial standpoint. Like, if that team has a Trout, but like outside of that, I mean, outside of Trout, Ohtani, and Judge, like, yeah, you have your guys like Bobby Witt, Gunnar Henderson. Like, there's young players in the league, but like, are they bringing people to the park? I don't know if they're making a huge impact like that, but I guess from an ownership standpoint, you got to think, well, if we sign this no trade clause, at least he's basically our property for the next 10 years. And he's going to bring in, they map all these things out, like revenue and things like that. Like, if it's a guy like a Brandon Nimmo, okay, if the Mets only have Brandon Nimmo and the owner was like, yeah, we'll sign a no trade clause with him. Well, like, why would you do that? Like, he's not a guy that's, he's not a superstar to where you're making so much money because you have Brandon Nimmo. He's a nice player. Sure. You want him on your team, but it's not like, oh man, we have to sign this no trade clause for Brandon Nimmo.
I've always been the other way around. I never thought of it that way, where maybe an owner wants it. Maybe an owner goes,
well, that's the only way it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's because, like you said, what's the point? Like, oh, no trade. Sure. Yeah. You're going to park your rear end here for the next 10 years. Like, where is that benefiting me if you start sucking in like Trey Turner, that he's like in year 3 of 10 and he sucks right now. Like, he's
no trade.
I think he does. That's what I'm saying. But like, I think Harper signed has a no trade, but we might see Harper. I mean, everybody's going to decline. Judge at 38 won't be the judge of.
Well, you pay the front end, right? Like, you quote unquote underpay. Like, you give Judge $40 million a year for what he does in the first 5, because you probably would have had to give him 55 if it was a 3-year contract. So you pay more on the front end than you would on the back end. Like, those numbers are mind blowing still to me to this day. Like, it just doesn't. Like, I remember when Gretzky was making $1 million a year, and then now you look, okay, that house is worth $1 million, so you kind of get $1 million. When you start talking 40, 50, 60, 70 million bucks for one guy, it's still, to this day, I'm 50 years old now, it blows my mind. Like, it absolutely is astonishing. Like, I just can't comprehend it.
Like, sometimes I'll have this conversation with some friends of mine, and I'll like this makes me sound like maybe sacrilegious as a sports fan, but I'm like, is it ridiculous that a quarterback's making $50 million to throw a ball for 3 hours on I know there's more to it than that. Like, they're practicing during the week, but like,
let's not make it harder than it is. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I'm not saying like we have the same. We're not bringing an organization the amount of money that those guys. I guess where it boils down to. But there's people out here working 60, 70-hour weeks. Raising 3 kids. Like, I'm not trying to make it comparable, but it's like, it's a little bit like, good God, like, and especially in the NFL now, it's like every quarterback that signs is getting like most of them aren't going to win anything. Like, Dak Prescott hasn't won anything. He's making
$60 million.
Yeah. For what?
They're the same thing. We could go through the list right now. These teams aren't winning, and every quarterback's making it at least $30 million, except for Brock Purdy, but that'll happen. But it's crazy.
Yeah, Herbert on the Chargers has done
this is what
Lawrence,
quarterbacks make. This is what the market is for a quarterback.
Like the guys that haven't even won, it's not even like you're paying them. Oh, this guy was a Super Bowl winner. Like Herbert on the Chargers hasn't won anything, hasn't done anything. He puts up good stats. He wins you some games, 50, 60 million. Like Lawrence on the Jaguars. It's just like you have 1 or 2 good years as a quarterback, you're good. That's fine.
I know Garrett's gonna listen to this, but Lawrence isn't good. He's just not.
How do you can't? I mean, you can't. When do the excuses end and the production starts? Right? Like at some point, like Jalen Hurts is playing like shit. I'll say it. Like I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, he doesn't win because of this. It's your job. It's your job.
If I paid somebody $65 million a year or $50 million a year, and you know what? If we lose, that's your fault. It's not mine. Like, if I'm giving you $50 million a year for 17 games, and you don't win, that's you, not me.
That's another thing too.
Coach, that's not anybody else. You're paid to be styling and profiling and making things work. Because if the system isn't this, then why do you sign the contract? If I'm giving you this much money, the coach isn't getting 50, then the coach is always one getting fired, right? If I'm giving you $50 million and we don't win, that's on you, quarterback. Plain and simple.
That's another thing too. Like, yes, football is a lot more physically demanding than baseball as far as like, you're getting hurt, you're playing through all that. But like at least Aaron Judge is trotting it out there at least 150 games a year. When he's healthy,
you play once a week, half the time.
Yeah, and exactly like baseball
in 3
months.
Like
I said, baseball, there's dead time. Sure, like you're not. Judge might not get a ball in 3 or 4 innings, but he's playing a 9-inning baseball game every day, and in the dog days of summer where it's like you're 3 games in Baltimore, you're 3 games in LA, you're 3 games in Philly. That will do it to you. And like football, like you said, and 17 games a year, you don't make the playoffs. 7, and then maybe you don't play 2 or 3 of those games because you're out of it. Like and then you play half the time if you even do. It's just like and
if you're getting blown out, they put the backup in. Or if you're winning by a bunch, they put the backup in.
I bang the drum all the time on the fact that like it's like there will be a day where guys are making $100 million a year, 1 year, $100 million
easily.
It's like for that doesn't like, yes, sports are good and they're a great distraction and they're enjoyable, but like, are we really at the point where that's what these guys are worth to? Like, I get they're bringing in X amount, like that's what they're looking at to pay them, but it's like that's just it's mad. It doesn't even make sense to me. It doesn't.
When the going rate for a mediocre quarterback is 30 whatever million a year, probably more. I don't know what the exact numbers are. We don't really check stats here and everything on the 1420 podcast. But when that's the going rate, they better recheck the books and get that audited, because now every kid in college is thinking, man, if I can have a pretty decent season at Wichita Valley Central, I could probably make a couple of bucks. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
The NFL is
because, and I said, sorry, just nobody's still better as of this moment on the 12th of December, 2024, than Patrick Mahomes. So whatever he's making, everyone else should be below that. Pretty simple. And it's this. He wins. He's got a good chance of winning again. They're getting some calls here and there, obviously, but if any agent or quarterback goes into an owner's office and says, "We want this," I would give him the iPad and say, "Have you done this with what this guy's doing?" No, get out. Get out. You're not worth as much as him. Fuck off and stay fucked off. In fact, what the backup's playing now. You're not making any money. Go to fucking Superstore and start bagging groceries. Fuck off.
See, and San Fran, I thought would be example of, hey, look, we made it work without Panner. Like they've been so close, right? And I
Yeah.
really don't like San Fran, but I would almost want them to win. Like if they did win, I'd be happy in
So
the
make a
fact that,
point.
hey, yeah, like look, we don't pay our quarterback much, but we're loaded everywhere else. Like the defense is loaded, the receiving core is loaded, the offensive line's great. You see, if you don't pay your quarterback and you surround everything, like you load up everything else, and you have a decent quarterback, you can win. Like I don't get why no team at least tries. Oh, Jalen Hurts had a good year contract. Joe Burrow had a good couple years contract. Like that kid for the Broncos right now, Bo Nix, if he
Burrow's what,
continues to
1-4 now? That's a great big bunch of who gives a fuck that guy. Jesus.
well, they've played good lately. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if he continues to play good for a year or two, he's the next. Like, you have 1 or 2 good years, and you're a young guy. There it is. Just hand it over. There's the money. It's like,
And it's no questions asked.
yeah,
Here.
it's no
All right.
pushback.
And that's one thing that's different with baseball is like the guys, like when you get drafted first overall or the first round in the NFL, you're playing. When you get drafted first overall, first round, you know, they're pushing pitchers through a little bit more now because Tommy John's and their arms are going to fall apart probably next week, most of these guys. But you don't get a chance to make a bunch of money early when you're a baseball player. And so it's a lot different. Like you get some chance to in baseball to season a little bit, whereas football, here's some money. Here you go, done. Like
Yeah,
they don't have to prove themselves, and like it's so. And I just thought of this actually. They don't have to prove themselves in the minors. They can play against subpar competition on a weekly basis in college. Get some scout that says this guy's the next one, and they get paid by what a scout says. It's great. Like they don't have to prove themselves against professional athletes. Like college football players do not have to prove themselves against professional athletes to get paid. I just thought of that. They don't.
Correct. Yeah, and the thing with baseball too, like I heard all this talk about because Alec Boehm is, I guess, becoming a locker room. Like he's a guy that struggles mentally with a lot of like he just doesn't. When things get rough, he checks out. He gets miserable. Like if he's not getting his at bats, like he's just a guy that he's like a mental case. So he needs to, get help and figure that out. But what I'm getting to there is he's going to go into arbitration. I think either this offseason or the next. There is no arbitration in football. It's like you played good. Here's your money. Like Alec Boehm.
Here you go.
Alec Boehm might say, you know what? I'm at arbitration. I'm worth $28 million. And then the Phillies come back and say, "Oh, you're like the 14th best third baseman. Let's just say you're actually worth this. So you can take this, or you can fuck off too." Like football, it's like everybody's resetting the market. Is it just because football makes so much more money than
it has to be? I've heard of NHL guys, some guys that I know a little bit that when they went to arbitration, that the relationship with their team was broken. Like I told them how good I was, and then they told me how bad I was, and then a judge would decide how much money I was going to make. And he said there was like one guy, I'm not going to mention his name, but he told me like he felt because they were trying to save, I don't know, 500 grand or whatever it was. He felt like he was like not even an NHL caliber player anymore after he left that hearing. You're like, no, you're not very good. You did this. Watch this play. You're terrible here. You're not nearly as good as this guy, that guy. Football, yeah, here's 40 mil. And you don't have to prove yourself. It's all on potential. Yeah, maybe.
I don't even think the NBA
baseball, like Judge had to wait 7 years before he got his payday. What if he got hurt?
At least there's that, right? At least, like I don't think the NBA. I don't follow the NBA like I used to, but
they give those guys bucket loads. The Brinks truck loads up
nothing.
Right in front of their house the minute they sign a contract. Here you go.
For nothing to.
What do you do? I don't know. Who do you play for? I don't care.
Yeah, I didn't know that about the NHL. It's interesting, but I know baseball. Like I said, like Boehm's coming up on arbitration. Like I'm sure there's guys like Volpe will probably be coming up on arbitration before too long. Like, and yeah, it's kind of a slap in the face, but at least there's like a business side of it, right? It's like, okay, we got to do it. Like that's like me going to my boss. Oh, I think I deserve this. You only deserve like that's realistic. Football is just like fuck it. Here's money. Like, why? Why is it? Just because, like, yeah,
just we're number 7. All right.
That kid on the
we went
Reds.
3-14 last year. Here's 40 mil. Fuck me.
Yeah, you had good stats though. It wasn't your fault.
Well, it's not my fault.
Well, and
It's
the
really
thing
not
is
my
too,
fault.
like the Commanders are having a great year so far. And like if that quarterback plays good for the rest of this year, he'll probably go into next offseason with his agent and be like, okay, boys, like let's get this guy signed in a year or less because he's playing good already. Like all you got to do is just have a good year or two and be a young guy and the sky's the limit. Like you could make 50, 60 million easily. And like I said, with no like those young guys in the Orioles, right? Gunnar Henderson, he was leading the league in home runs for a while.
Yeah.
He's still getting paid 800,000. Doesn't matter. He's still on his rookie deal.
He's got arbitration for 3 more years.
Yeah, he's got it. Okay, this is what I'm making. Like at least they have to suck it up for. Not that 800 grand is chump change, but it is compared to the NFL. It's like
when your teammates got fucking 80 sheets in the bank after 2 seasons, keeping up with the Hendersons is a little bit tough. Like just like it's unbelievable. Here, okay, like who's the kid? Who is the quarterback for the Commanders? He's got the draft pick this year. What's his name?
Yeah, Daniels. Yeah, Jane
Daniels. Right. 10 years from now, and I'm still doing this stupid thing in my basement here. I'm going to put money on the Washington Commanders with Daniels under center have not won a Super Bowl.
You never know, but football to me is more wide like it is and it's not because it's not the haves and the have-nots, but it is still because the Chiefs are the haves, right? And everybody else is the have-nots because they haven't done it. Like they've just so I
because they have one guy who's still the best in the league.
Yeah, I get where you're coming. Like the Eagles found a way to win a Super Bowl. The people thought that would never happen. So, I'm not saying it can't happen, but like baseball, I could tell you this right now. Look at Pittsburgh with all the time. I mean, they draft Paul Skeens. They have guys in the line. Like they find ways to. They're like the Oakland A's of the East Coast.
Yeah.
With talent in their minor league system,
and a beautiful baseball park compared to what Oakland had. But yeah,
exactly. Oh yeah, that's where it goes without saying for sure. But I could guarantee unless they get new ownership, they're going to be stuck in purgatory for like forever. And that's the thing about the NFL. At least like you going into a new year. Oh, the Bears get Caleb Williams. Oh, you have you have a little bit of hope. The baseball, like if I'm a Pirates fan, I have no hope going in. Zero hope. Zero. You watch it because you love baseball. That's it. That's where it starts. If you're a Pirates fan and you're sitting there every year, we're gonna find a way to be sneaky good. Like the Brewers, right? Like my buddy Trajan. He was kind of telling me, this might be the year. At least, yes, they're closer. They knock on the door. They're a good team.
Lick in the jar, yeah.
But are they gonna what makes you think other than just pure fandom that they're gonna beat the Mets? They're gonna beat the Dodgers. They're gonna beat like these teams that are just rolling. Like Phillies couldn't do it, and the Phillies have a 200 plus more million. And not to say that that's the only determining factor, but in baseball, it's like it's look at the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have all the talent in the world, and they can't do anything.
Awful. They're in a heap of trouble out there in Toronto land. It's back. So you're not getting free agents. Getting free agents, I mean, you give them enough money, they'll come. But the Blue Jays have to overpay to get guys to come north of the border. It's his fact. And even though it's like Toronto's a great city, it's probably one of the top 5 cities in North America. But people just don't want it for whatever reason. It's just so now you got to overpay, and people say it's cold. Well, it's just cold in fucking New York City. It's just the same whatever. But no, let's move away from baseball here a little bit. This is a great conversation here, and Jesus Christ, I think Saturdays might be our sweet spot here. One of those things.
Got me a coffee today. It usually doesn't come out this quite.
Your Penn State Nittany Lions headed to the Coliseum in Los Angeles, California today. Haven't met since that fateful Rose Bowl back in what was it, 2017, 2018, whatever it was. What's your thoughts on your undefeated Nittany Lions so far this year?
I mean, for the most part, it's been pretty good. I can't necessarily complain. The fact that USC dropped that shocking game last week doesn't make me feel. That actually makes me feel worse about this matchup, though, because I think they know obviously that they need to win this game to stay even relevant. I mean, the 2 losses already isn't great.
No, they should have that Michigan game. They should have won that game. I'm fucking pissed off still about that. Fucking
I don't. I mean, this whole Big Ten. It's not what is the Big 16 or Big
I
14,
hate
whatever.
it.
I don't like it either. It makes me nervous. They got to go all the way out there. Like if it's the Rose Bowl, that's different because you have time off. You're
Yeah.
out there for a week or two. Like I think they flew out there on like Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that. It's a weird dynamic. It's a lot to get used to. You're in a different time zone. I'm not trying to make excuses for why they're going to lose, but I'm cautiously optimistic because this is a game they could lose for sure. And I just don't know. I mean, USC's offense has kind of been Jekyll and Hyde at times, but when they're clicking, they can put some points up. So I don't know. I just don't know how they're going to match up. And it's cool that they get to go out there. I'm glad they don't have to play Michigan this year, even though Michigan's kind of having a little bit of a down-ish year. But I don't know. The fact that like USC lost last week causes me a little bit of concern because I think they're going to come out with their hair on fire and give it 150%. It's just what does Penn State? How do they counterpunch, or how do they start the game and get in the rhythm early? So.
Yeah, I'm still like it's going to take a long time. I mean, Jesus, that there's no Pac-12. Well, there kind of is. It's
Pac-2.
weird, but whatever.
Like,
Pac-2. It's fucking weird. College football's so dumb. Just leave it. Just leave it. There's enough money to go around. Just make one big conference and call it good. It's stupid. It's whatever. But no, it's odd. Like I said, USC, the big loss that they had against Michigan, they should have won that one in the Big House, and then they lost last week. So season's basically over. Like it's ridiculous to say it's week 5 or 6, whatever it is. It's over. You can't do anything with it. USC wins big today, like by big. I mean 10. I guess it's not a.
wow.
I think
Okay.
I think it's a 4-point spread right now, isn't it? Something like that. But
Yeah. Something. It was like 3.5 last time I saw it.
Well, Aaron, that game starts in just over an hour and 20 minutes. This is a lot of fun today. We should make this a regular thing on maybe every other Saturday or something when you can find time and I find time to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely like the collab. I wanted to be there. I got really caught up in that Oakland A's stuff for what I guess I'm just such a baseball nerd that like that. I started really following that, listening to those guys and the fans in the parking lot, and I was like, man, they really got fucking screwed.
Like that, yeah, it's Jesus. That one. Well, maybe we'll get some other guys. I got a couple of guys from Oakland. I'll get them. Maybe we can jump in there. But it's baseball has so many storylines, and we've talked about before, and how they just don't promote themselves. Like there's so much that happens in the game of baseball, and like the baseball dorks like me and you can follow it, but because it just doesn't get the national press, because baseball is such a regional sport. Like every team has their fans here, right? And every team has their fans here, and it just doesn't get the push that it should. Like Canada has the Jays, but in general, most people in Canada don't follow any other teams. Yeah, you have your Yankee fans. Yeah, you have your Mets fans. Yeah, you have your Mariners fans out in BC because it's not too far from Seattle. But in general, like baseball really finds a way to trip on its dink nonstop by not promoting the game enough. They really don't.
Yeah, and I just like there was a couple guys I found on YouTube throughout the process, and throughout this Oakland, because like I said, when I watched Moneyball, that kind of at least put a soft spot in my heart for that team, just because it's you're up against so much. Wow, that's taking a shot at the USC Trojans there.
Yeah, my brother, he's a Trojans fan as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I just like you listen to the story, and it's a city that lost the Kansas City, the freaking the Warriors to San Francisco, the basketball team. They lose the Oakland Raiders to Vegas. It's like you took something that at least they had that to hang on to. And I get there's more to it than just people's emotions. Like the money side of it will trump everything, but
there's lots of money. It's just greed. They're all making money still.
And if you tried to put a winner there, I mean, you saw, like, you go back, I think it was like, I was watching this video on like the last 20 years of just since the 2000s of the A's, and they had their years there where that place was rocking. Like it was, and like Dallas Braden throwing that perfect or no hitter, I think perfect game.
Mother's Day.
Yeah. And he's part of their broadcast team. So like, I was really trying to like get, just some knowledge there on the A's, and watching like their post game after the very last game, and the guys in the studio are breaking down like they can't, because it hits you like, wow, that's it. And I don't know. Like you think about it's more than just baseball to me. That's where it really took a turn because there's families that grew. Oh, the grandfather took
Yeah.
the son, and then the son becomes the dad, and then he takes his kid. Like there is no Oakland A's doesn't. It's dead. Like that's and I
Like,
don't know
even
how.
if they come back as something else and call themselves the A's again, because the A's franchise is now gone. It is like it's
Yeah,
they're
you shouldn't be the
Sacramento.
Vegas
So
A's. I
it's
don't
now
agree with
if they
that.
come back and they're the Oakland A's reincarnate, it's not the same. Like
I
it's
honestly think like if
what do you think's
baseball
gonna
would
happen?
allow it. Well, if baseball would allow it, why not? If the quote unquote A's are going to Vegas,
Make
okay,
them change their name.
make them change their name, and then what if somebody because baseball wants more teams? Why don't somebody that cares? The Coliseum's not going anywhere. I know this is like advantageous thinking, but like you could realistically, if you had an ownership that cared, like Magic Johnson pumps so much money into the Dodgers, why didn't somebody at least try? I know it's a risk because that city's in like
I don't think it
financial.
is. Like I don't think it is because there's enough money to be made with all the other entities, right? Like just like if you get a franchise, there's just like you get the app money is like the MLB app's one of the biggest apps in all of appdom. Is that that's even a word? But it like MLB.com makes so much money and the revenue sharing it's there. Like these I don't think it's a risk. And then
Well,
get it go in as a loss leader like Costco sells the fucking hot dogs and say, you know what? Let's take a loss for a couple of years. Let's get this new stadium built that we could have done, and let's get a deal done with the city and with the state or with the county, however it works, and let's get something done. Let's get
well,
something done and bring this team because there's got to be at least one person who's got a few B's behind his name is in his bank account
Mark
who
Cuban,
might say, you know what,
somebody.
let's do it. Let's do this. We're not
Yeah,
going to lose.
yeah. I mean, I would love to. Like I said, if they want to move him to Vegas, call him something like that's no longer the A's. If
Call
they
them the
really go
gamblers,
to Vegas,
whatever.
yeah, if you go to Vegas and you call yourself the Vegas Athletics, that's another just. I mean, you talk about
Another
a kick
knife
to
in
the
the back of an
balls.
A's fan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's horrible. Baseball should be like that. Should not you leave the town like the Baltimore Colts went to Indianapolis in the middle of the night, and then
Illinois
there's still the
Mayflower
Indianapolis
trucks. Yeah.
Colts. Like that, get fucked. Like that. I'm not. My grandparents were Baltimore Colts fans, but it's like that. That's absurd to me. But what I was gonna say, because I was talking to Trajan about his Brewers just yesterday, because Valley Sports, I guess
Yeah.
they're going under, so. The Brewers, the Twins, I forget who, Tigers, I think, and Marlins or something like that.
There's a
But
few of them. Yeah. I think the Diamondbacks are on there. Yeah. There's a few. Yeah.
right, yeah. There's like 12 in total. Some of the teams are still hanging on to that for a couple more years, I think. But I think those four, I could have switched one, but those four are losing Valley Sports. So Trajan told me, in our show, he said the Brewers get up there in their end of the year press conference. Oh, we lost to the Mets, this and that. But then they say we're going to have less money to spend because MLB has now the rights to our TV programs. How is that not a slap? Like you're slapping the fans in the
Yeah.
face of because you didn't get it done this year, and now you're going to try less to bring in talent than you already do. The Brewers don't spend money like. Is that just bullshit? Are you feeding the fans bullshit, or is that legitimate? Do you think?
I think it's legitimate because the TV deals are huge, right? Like that's why the
100%.
Yankees have their own network, and basically so do the Red Sox with Nesson is kind of owned by the Red Sox, and the Jays are owned by Rogers, which owns four of the things. So like the money is huge when it comes to this, and they dump it into themselves because advertising dollars are huge. We see that with everything. It ain't a good look for baseball. It's not a good look for baseball that these television deals get destroyed because you can't watch it, right? Like if you're out of market games, you can't see it, and you have to get the app or else you can. It's just so it's the whole baseball they just find a way to do it. And if you're already making excuses, like we said earlier, we could name 15 teams right winning the World Series, but you had playoff teams now that are being told that they're going to spend less money. Well, fuck me. Like we didn't win this year, and now you're already telling me in October that we're not winning next year. Why am I buying season tickets?
It's so, oh man, I just don't get how it's like they almost intentionally try and do this sometimes. I mean, you got to think like you said, I mean, those TV, I know they're hundreds of millions of dollars, and like, yes is like nonstop Yankees. I mean, Yankees Entertainment Network. So it's like, I mean, you have the Goliaths, right? Like the Yankees have a Goliath, but even like Oakland had CSN, Comcast Sports Oakland.
Yeah.
That's what the Phillies run off of, CSN Philly. It's like these, I guess these mid tier or whatever, like these smaller market teams. Like the Orioles have Mass and Mid Atlantic Sports Network, but like how sustainable are those networks? But I still think you got to have enough ratings to keep those going, though. Like baseball is always on, so it's like you go to any bar, there's 162 of these games. Like how are they
People
losing
are watching.
money?
Like people are watching. There's got like for the like I can't remember what show I was listening to so many these damn things, but they're getting like it sounds like not a lot, but you're getting 300,000 to 400,000 for a bad game watching it. Like that's a lot of eyeballs picking up going to Salino and Barnes and whatever the advertising is. Like there's 400, 500, it's like sometimes like 800,000 people watching these games for a bad game, for a bad team. Like there's got to be some money there somewhere.
And the fact that what is this now? MLB is just going to take over. Like, are they going to try and go out there and try and get the Brewers a network, or is this just going to be the way it is for like the Marlins and the Twins and like, is this the solution or is this a Band-Aid? Like, what is this now?
I don't think they know. Because it's just every time they try to do something, it goes wrong. Like it's crazy. It's insane. Okay, Aaron, let's get out of here. What do you got going on? I see you're a Wisconsin guy now all of a sudden.
Yeah, he's I mean, I found somebody that, I mean, he's more consistent than I am, and he's more punctual than I mean, punctual is my biggest thing. Like I'll do it. It's just trying to be there at the time I stay is the hardest part. But yeah, Trajan on Wisconsin Sports on the Go. I mean, we found each other through a podcasting group on Facebook, and we've just been trying to pump out. I mean, he wants to pump out 3 shows a week. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what we did this week. So yeah, I mean, just trying to stay on the horse there, because it's, as you know, it's consistency is the game, and it's hard to do it, but it's also an escape for me for sure. This world's just madness right now, and sports world kind of, at least I still lose my temper, but it's like, I don't know. It's a controlled, it's more of a fun discussion, at least.
No, it's still a lot of fun getting away from it all, and like you kind of just turn it off, and swear that I wish I didn't know all the behind the scenes. Like I wish I could just watch games now. Now I'm always thinking of an angle how to make it into a show. Like I'm always thinking of some different thing. It's fucking ridiculous. Anyways, the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, 4 beer sports talking a whole lot more. Take care of each other. More important, take care of yourselves and eat around. Keep your stick on the ice, and what else, Aaron?
Don't swing at the high pitches.
There we go. Have a great day, folks. Doesn't matter where you are, it's who you're with. Have a great weekend. Go Trojans, and we'll talk to you guys later on in the week. You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. 4 beer with sports talking a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get into it.